Good morning, friends. Myself, Dr. Naval Singh Todawat, Assistant Professor in the subject of Botany, Mureshwar Art, Commerce, Science College, Bhokardhan. Today we will be having a lecture for the paper that is Plant Ecology of the BSc SY student. In Plant Ecology, we have covered most of the aspects such as ecology, ecosystem, temperature, and many more. But today we are going to revise few aspects and going to study in detail the water as well as the edaphic factor. Regarding ecology or ecosystem, we know that the relationship between the organism and the environment, that is physical environment, surrounding. The relationship is maintained, or the surrounding or the factors are one of the most essential part for the survival of life. Whereas we called biotic factors for living organisms, and the factors of surrounding or physical surroundings, we call it as abiotic factors. A means absence, that means non-living things. The non-living things components are very essential for the survival, reproductions, for their metabolic activity, and many more. Friends, here we see the temperature. Now the question arises in mind, how this temperature influence the life, how this temperature influence the organism's life, or how it is useful, or in what sense it is harmful for the survival of life. We know that each and every organism on the earth or lives in a optimal temperature. Each and every organism can survive on its specific range of temperature. Now, the temperature is a very an important aspect for the survival of organism on this earth. While focusing on the word of earth, draw a figure in your mind of the earth, a circular. On the equator position, we see the temperature is very low, whereas on the northern pole and southern pole, we observe the temperature is in minus degree. Though the organism surviving on the equatorial pole, on the equatorial region, or on the northern pole or on the southern pole, they do adapt in such type of conditions. Whereas talking about the Indian geographical region, we see the various fluctuations in the different specific region in India too. We see the temperature is very high in the desert region. The temperature is constant and stable in the seacoast region. So this fluctuation, according to this fluctuation, the organisms try to adapt in that particular temperature region. So temperature varies according to the seasons. We knew the three seasons: spring, oblique monsoon, winter, and summer. As summers comes in our mind, we find the temperature increases in our tropical zone. Whereas in winter, due to the cold, temperature seems to be low or temperature is down in the summer season. But in spring, the temperature fluctuates and the rainfall occurs in the spring season. So these are the variations, seasonal variations of the temperatures. Now, according to the temperature or to the region, where in temperate zone, where there is temperature is very low, in this zone the organisms adapt among themselves. The metabolic activity or the enzyme activity has adapted in such a sense that the organism can survive in temperate zone. But the organism those are found in temperate zone are unable to survive in tropical zone. Vice versa, the organism which are in tropical zone are unable to survive in the temperate zone because the body temperature may not fluctuate, may not adapt in such a condition. Whereas talking about the mango plant, that is Mangifera indica, we found this plant in tropical zone. Do you find this plant in temperate zone? Do you find this plant in snow region? No. But whereas few animals like snow leopard, we accept them only in the temperate zone or where the snow occurs. We don't expect the leopard occurring in our tropical zone or the leopard occurring, the snow leopard occurring in our Maharashtra or in the sea coastal region. So this is the temperature variations which occurs seasonal according to the geographical region. On our earth, we find the different types of temperature variation on the various geographical region of the earth. Some fishes we find in the oceans or lakes, some we find in the tropical region, and we also see the Euro temperature and the Stenio temperature. Friends, these are the temperature which we see in the ranges in our globe. Now next to that, we move towards the water. What is water? H2O. Water is one of the most essential and important factor for the survival of the organism on this earth. Without water, no organism can sustain on this earth. Even the origin of the life have been found from the water. Nowadays, we are trying to find out the life on the moon. Means what we are finding? We are finding the water itself on the moon, that whether the life will survive on this moon or not. This is the sustainability of the water. Without water, no life can sustain. It cannot produce, it cannot grow, it cannot reproduce, it cannot produce its food. All these things are very necessary and essential factors. While talking on the water, we see the different types of zones: tropical rainforest, deserts, temperate forest, and so on. Focusing or reviewing on the desert. As the desert come in our mind, we know that there is low precipitation, low rainfall. The average rainfall throughout the year is very low in this desert region. But the organism which survive in this desert region have to adapt a special characteristic features they have been developed to survive in such a region. If we talk about the Cactaceae family or the cactus, the plant have adapted in such a way that they are able to store the waters in their body. And the adapting factors we see is that they develop a thorns, those are pointed. The water molecules are stored in that. And the function of the thorn is to protect the plant from the external factors, might be animals or many more. Productivity of the water. We see without water, none of the plants are able to produce the food. So, without water, no food will be produced by the plant, and ultimate, if food is not produced, the plant is unable to survive. Now, there is different type of water. This is the plain factor or a very plain aspect that water is very necessity amount for the survival. But we have to check the physical parameters or chemical properties of the waters, that how these properties or chemicals are affecting the life of the organisms. We have heard about the water and mineral water. Mineral means all the elements are present in the mineral water. Most of our experiments we use the mineral water itself in our laboratories. We don't go for the plain water. So friends, while talking about the sea water or oceanic water, we come to know that there is lot of salinity, and that is why we are unable to drink this water. Whereas in most of the plants, while taking the example of the plants, when the salinity water is given to the plant, what will happen? The salts level will increases in the plant, and it will affect the osmosis process of the plant. In osmosis process, what we see? We see that the plant remove the excess amount of water with the help of the leaf. But when think about that, that when the roots or the understem part is full of the salinity water, what will happen? The water contains from the plant where coming out, now they are just checked due to the high amount of the salt in it. So high salinity water is also dangerous for the plant for their survival. But most of the aquatic plant we see that they are able to grow in such type of water also. They have developed among themselves. Whereas most of the plant, those who live in this aquatic system, they have been developed, and the pH of the water, that is acidic or alkalic, is with the range of the pH is been maintained by the enzymic activity of the plant itself. So this is all what about the water. And in the preparation of food, we know that the in the process of photosynthesis, sunlight as well as chlorophyll pigments are a big agent to produce the food with the help of the CO2 and water molecule. So friends, this was the regarding the water. Now we will talk about the next factor is that the light factor and the edaphic factor or the soil factor. Whereas light is also an essential factor for the survival of the organisms. Now we talk about the autotrophs. What are autotrophs? Autotroph means the organism those are able to produce their own food or they produce their own food. Auto means self. So friends, in case of autotrophs, the organism photosynthesize with the help of the light. Photo means light. Synthesizing means producing. And it produce the glucose. The autotrophs are producing the glucose, that is food material. This glucose or these autotrophs which are produced, which produces the foods, are consumed by the herbivorous herbivorous animals, and these herbivorous animals are consumed by the carnivorous. So in this food chain, light is the essential factor for the survival of autotrophs as well as herbivores as well as carnivores. Now we move towards the canopy. The next point in the light is that is canopy. What is canopy? Canopy means something to shade the under. We have seen the lots of canopy in forest area. Nowadays in construction field or in the building field we have heard this word canopy. This canopy is also occur in the forest area. Well, assuming the picture of the forest in our mind, we come to know that the trees are of large sizes and big. In those forests, we find these some herbs and shrubs too. In that case, most of the light is captured by the upper part of the highest and tallest plant, whereas the lowest herbs and shrubs are unable to absorb the light, means the light is not reaching till that till that region. So here the life of these herbs and shrubs are little but disturbs, but though they survive in that canopy. The third one is that photo period. What is photo period? Photo period means the period of light in a optimum range is required for the flowering of the plant. Some plants flower in a very short period of time. Few of the species is being flower in a long day period of time, and some of the plant species are day neutral. They don't bother whether it is short day or a long day. Photo period is divided into three types, that is short day plant, long day plant and day neutral plant. Whereas the plants who needs the short day length, the wavelength of the light, in case a more amount of light is given, for example the plant needs 5 hours of light and it is possess to 8 hours of light, then the plant will not flower or flowering will not occur in this short day plant. In case of long day plant, in long day plant, suppose the plant needs 10 hours of light or the wavelength of the light, and it is getting only 5 hours of the light for its survival, ultimately it will also not produce the flowers. Whereas day neutral flower or day neutral plants will flower because they do not bother or had a condition of short term light or long term light. So we see a spectrum of the light. We see there are various radiations in the light such as gamma rays, X rays, ultraviolet rays and so on. So friends, lights plays a very important role in the survival of the organism. Now animals also are influenced due to the light. We see that most of the animals are nocturnal and most of the are they can survive in daytime also. The migratory birds or the animals, they migrate according to the length of the day and the length of the light. Now the question arises, the organisms surviving in the water, what about them? The organisms surviving in the or in the aquatic ecosystem, how these light plays a role. We know that the sunlight or the rays of the sunlight penetrates up to the 500 meter in the water bodies or in the oceans. Most of the animals survive on the upper zone of the oceans, and there are most of the animal they have been adapted and adapting characters or the specific features have been developed in such an animal that they can survive more than the 500-meter depth in the ocean. Spectral quality. Spectral quality means what? The quality of this light, intensity of this light, how much strength or the intensity of the light is reaching to the oceanic water or the ponds water or the lake water. You may call it as the spring water in the lake or oceanic water. The next factor we see, that is the edaphic factor. We also may call it as the soil factor. The soil factor is also one of the most essential for the cultivation of different types of the crops. In what sense? We see that the sugar cane needs a high amount of water, rice needs a high amount of water, then most of the fruits plants needs high amount of water. Some of the crops are there, they need a very less amount of the water. On this basis, we try to find the type of the soil and we sow such type of the crops. So these climatic conditions, we see the various types of rocks in our Indian subcontinental: igneous rock, alluvial rock, and many more. Now, what is weathering? Weathering is the process that it takes hundreds of years. A hard rock is turned into the soil. Now, how this weathering occurs? Assume a rock. See this circle you are seeing on the right side. In this circle, you may see that the droplets or the rainwater is falling on the hard rock, and this rainwater, which is stable now on the hard rock, in night time or in the low temperature, it water molecule turn or it moves into the ice form, means in the solid stage. These molecules, when it enters in the hard rock or in the gaps of these rocks, these water molecules becomes a ice, and the volume of the ice is more than the water, means it gives a pressure on the rock. Continuously giving a pressure on this rock for numbers of years, these rock molecules break down into small particles, and in this small particle later turn into the soil. So this is a very long and critical process of the weathering to form the soil from the rock. Now, what is the texture of the soil? So on these conditions, if you talk about the India, we see in the southern parts most of the states are a big rice growing state, whereas in Punjabs we see most of the districts of Punjab or throughout the Punjab, wheat is one of the major crop of the state. In case of Haryana, we see the sugarcane is the major crop of the state, and many more. In case of Maharashtra, we see the cotton is the major crop of the state. So, availability of the soil, condition of the soils, and minerals which are present in the soil, by looking out all these factors, farmers try or farmers cultivate for the same plant which will be suitable for that particular soil. So soil texture is what? We see the black soil, red soil, alluvial soil, sometimes the different types of the soil. So this is the texture of the soil. So size of the soil, composition of the soils, what nature of the soil is having. Now what is the nature of the soil? The nature of the soil is that what type of percolation activity takes place in the soil, how the water holding capacity is of that particular soil. These factors are checked before the going for the specific type of crops. We see there are soils, those are having a good quality of water holding. Some soil we see that they have a good quality of percolation, but few of the crops needs the more amount of the water, means they are suitable in the soil where the water holding condition is good. So this is regarding the texture of the soil, as well as the organisms also survive in different types of soil according to the nature of the soil. So friends, today we have spoke regarding all these factors of the ecological factors, that is relationship of the environmental factors with the organisms, or abiotic components relationship with the organisms. Rest of the part of the syllabus we'll be seeing in the next video. Thank you.